Today we're checking out a huge bin full of Camp Cretaceous predators. I've got T-Rexes, I've got Indominus Rexes, and a whole lot more. First, let's check out this huge Indominus Rex figure. I think this figure is the largest predator figure that I have aside from the super colossal figures. This figure has the typical Indominus Rex coloring that you see in the movies. It's got the gray all over its body with some brown detailing on the top and around its eyes too. And it comes with action buttons, one for the arms and one for the jaw. I believe this figure is the epic roaring T-Rex. This figure has some of my favorite coloring and detailing along its whole body, and my favorite part is that you can use the tail to twist its neck and to move it up and down, and a button to control its jaw to make it look really lifelike. Hiding back here, we've got a huge Spinosaurus figure. This is almost as big as the Indominus Rex figure, but I think a little bit smaller. Still really epic though. It's got the tan body with the red spine and a narrow and very long snout. Over here, we've got another T-Rex figure, but this one is different. It is the extreme battle damage T-Rex. It's got totally different coloring with the gray detailing on the top and the light underbelly and brown on the sides. And of course, it's got the special ability that you can turn the battle damage on and off with the click of a button. Plus, with this figure, there's no button to control the jaw, but you can actually just open its mouth and keep it open for posing. Before we keep going with this bin, I've actually got some brand new ones from Camp Cretaceous that we're gonna open up and check out. This first one is the Scorpios Rex Danger Pack. First, let's check out the Scorpios Rex figure. This has some similar coloring as the other Scorpios Rex figures that I have. You'll see later on in the video, but it is actually a dark green. The other Scorpios Rex figures I have are just black. It's got the yellow underbelly, of course, and the poisonous quills on its tail. And there's no action button, but it is pretty adjustable. You can move its legs and its arms. You can adjust its neck, and of course, open and close the mouth. And those are some pretty crazy looking teeth too. And the other two pieces that come in the set are Kenji in the blue sweater and the sphere that they can ride in. You can actually plop them down in there. It secures them in so they won't go flying around. Then you can close it up. Bingo! And then even as it spins, they stay upright. So you can actually roll this thing around and have the Scorpios Rex chase after it. How cool is that? It's a full playset. Here is another brand new Camp Cretaceous figure that I'm adding to my collection. This is Velociraptor Delta. This figure is the exact same size as many of the other Camp Cretaceous and Jurassic World Velociraptor figures. It's got some pretty cool coloring. It's like a dark green blue with the black stripes on top. And this figure actually comes with a special feature. There is a button on its back that you can use for slashing. Next up, we've got the Carnotaurus figure. Comes with sound effects as well as you can hear. It's got the dark brown body with some black detailing along the top, a super bumpy texture along its skin, two big horns, it's got some yellow eyes, a huge set of teeth, and the action button to control the head. Next up, we've got a Ceratosaurus figure. This figure has a gray-brown body. It's got some darker brown detailing, and of course the bright red along its back and its head. It's got the white horn and an action button to control the jaw. Way down here, we've got another Scorpios Rex figure. This figure is larger than the one that I just opened up, and as you can see, it does have the darker body. It is not dark green, but instead is like a very dark blue and black along the top. Plus, this figure does have action buttons. The first button on its back controls the jaw, and the second button on its back controls the arms. Plus, the tail is actually spring-loaded, so you can swing it back and forth for hitting other dinosaurs. This is an Albertosaurus. It's got the dark green body with the orange detailing all the way up to its head. You can move its arms, you can move its legs, and its tail swivels back and forth to swivel the head. Next up is a big old Baryonyx figure. This figure is mostly green. It's got some darker green along its back and some brown that goes all the way up to its head. And it's got a slide lever action to control the jaw and sound effects. This is a Cryolophosaurus figure. It is dark blue with red and orange detailing along its neck and head. You can manually open and close the mouth, and the rest of its body parts are movable as well. And the tail actually controls the head. This is a Carcharodontosaurus. It's got the tan body with orange and brown detailing, and it's a pretty big figure and pretty adjustable. You can move the arms, legs, and tail, and it's got an action button on its back to control the chomping. This is a Sarcophagus figure. It looks quite a bit like an alligator, so I wouldn't be surprised if they're related, but it's got some much more interesting coloring than most alligators. It's got a light blue-gray body with some purple along the top and some orange and red detailing on the side. And look at all those spikes that line its back, from the top all the way to the bottom of its tail. And with this figure, you can use the tail to move its head around in a super realistic way. Here is an Allosaurus figure. These are some pretty epic looking dinosaur figures. It's got the tan body with two tones of blue, light blue on the face and back, and dark blue along the bottom of its back and its legs too. This figure is fully posable. You can move it around and adjust its arms, and it actually comes with two action buttons, one to control the jaw and one to control the arms. Next up is another Baryonyx figure with different coloring. It has the green body once again. It's got some lighter coloring along the bottom of its neck and two different tones of brown on its back. You can see the light brown along the bottom and the dark brown along its neck. And once again, light brown on the top of its head that encapsulate its yellow eyes. And let's not forget the button on its back to control the jaw. Plus, the rest of its limbs are adjustable and posable as well. This is a Monolophosaurus with the dark green-brown coloring and the yellow detailing all along its back and the orange detailing right along its nose and head. And let's check out those green eyes too. It's got some tiny little eyes. And with this figure, you can actually use the tail to open and close its jaw. Here is a Velociraptor figure. I think this might be Velociraptor Charlie. I can't remember, I get confused. But it's got the green body with the darker green detailing along its back and its head. It's got the yellow eyes. You can manually open and close the jaw, and the rest of its limbs are posable and movable too. Here is another Monolophosaurus figure. It is a very dark blue color. It's got some tan detailing along its back that goes all the way up to its head. This figure also has some yellow eyes and a huge set of teeth, and its whole body is fully posable as well. You can move its neck, you can move it side to side, you can move the arms, legs, and tail too. I've got a few Dimorphodon figures in here too. This first one is a dark green. It has some red and yellow detailing along the bottom of its wings. I've also got a bright red Dimorphodon with some fiery detailing along the bottom of its wings, which is pretty cool. This is probably my favorite Dimorphodon figure. And I've also got this gray Dimorphodon with a little bit of darker coloring along its back and the maroon or purple detailing along the bottom of its wings. This is a water dinosaur, and if I remember correctly, it is a Plesiosaurus. It's got a pretty adjustable body. You can move the neck up and down, as well as up here. You can open and close the mouth. Check out all those teeth. And it's got an action button on its back to move its flippers. Check out this next Monolophosaurus figure. It has some light brown coloring along most of its body. It's got the gray feet, which is a cool feature, as well as the gray detailing along its back, neck, and the top of its head. And it's got those huge set of teeth once again. Of course, we can't forget Velociraptor Blue with the iconic blue stripe down both sides of its body. This figure is fully posable as well. You can move the legs, the arms, and even open and close the jaw. Here is a Dilophosaurus figure. It is a light gray color. It's got some red detailing along its frills and on the crown on the top of its head. And the best part is that the tail actually opens its jaw and its frills. That's really cool. Next up, I believe this is called a Proceratosaurus figure. It's got a blue and brown body and some bright orange coloring right along the top of its eye. This figure is fully posable as well. You can move the arms, the legs, you can twist the tail, and of course open and close the jaw manually. This is a Coelosaurus figure. It stands on 2 feet but looks quite a bit different from most of the other figures that I have. It has the tan and brown body It's got some awesome blue detailing along the top of its head. You can manually open and close the jaw, and it is fully posable with the arms, legs, and tail as well. With some of the big figures. First off, I bet you will be seeing another T-Rex, most likely Rexy the T-Rex. This is the Hammond collection T-Rex and is one of the most detailed figures that I have. And you know, it'd be really cool if we saw an Indominus Rex figure in this Chaos Theory show. This Indominus Rex figure is even larger than my Hammond collection T-Rex, and it has two buttons, one for slashing the arms and one for chomping the jaw. I've got a few more really cool T-Rex figures in here. This one is in the classic brown with a darker brown on top and has the button on the top of its head for the chomping. Check out that huge bite. Over here is a Scorpios Rex figure, and I think this would make a great villain dinosaur in the new show. This dinosaur figure has two action buttons, one to chomp its jaw and the other button to slash its arms. Next up is a Tarbosaurus figure. This is one crazy looking dinosaur with all these spikes on its back and then the bright red underneath its chin. It's a pretty cool chomping action too. Back here, we've got a Suchomimus figure. This figure is actually pretty large, and this is the blue and yellow version. And this version has one action button for chomping the jaw. Here's another giant T-Rex figure. This one is the Battle Damage edition, and you can see the battle damage hidden right there on the side. When I press this button at the top, it flips it so that the battle damage is revealed on both sides. Plus, the full body is posable. My next Chaos Theory prediction is a Dilophosaurus. This figure is the bright red basic version, so it's got the green and red frills that you can open and close, and the big yellow crown on the top of its head. This is a Cryolophosaurus figure. This version is the yellow and brown one. And with this figure, you can move the tail around to move the head in a super lifelike way. And I've also got the other version of the Cryolophosaurus. This is the dark blue with the white and a little bit of red on its back. And just like the yellow version that we just saw, you can move the tail to move the head around. I'd say it's a pretty good bet that the Atrociraptor dinosaur will be in the upcoming Chaos Theory show. We saw this species in the Jurassic World Dominion movie, so I think it's gonna come back. Up next, I've got a Baryonyx figure in here. This one is the gray with dark blue coloring and the bright blue on top, and it has the slide lever action for opening and closing its jaw with sound effects. Here's one of my favorite herbivores, the Stegosaurus. This figure is the dark gray-blue version. It has the pink underbelly and the hidden action button on its spine to move its tail back and forth. So you better watch out for those spikes. And here is our first flying dinosaur of this Chaos Theory predictions haul. This is a Pteranodon, and I believe that this one is from the Hammond collection, so it actually has these rubbery wings, which make it look and feel a whole lot more lifelike. Next up is a Velociraptor figure. Now this is Velociraptor Blue, and I don't know that they'll be showing up in the Chaos Theory show, but I definitely think some Velociraptors will. My next prediction is a Carnotaurus. This is one of my favorite predator dinosaurs, and I'd be really excited if it was in the new Chaos Theory show. This is the Sound Surge edition, and there's a button on the side that you can press for the sound effects. I've got another Suchomimus figure in here. Earlier we saw the dark blue version, and this one is the bright yellow with the brown detailing. And this one actually has two buttons. The first button activates that same chomping action, and it has a second button to activate some tail swinging. Next is the ginormous Albertosaurus figure. And you know, I think this dinosaur looks pretty cool as well. It's got the green body with the orange stripe on the side. And with this figure, you can use the tail to move the head around and chomp its jaw. Next, why don't we open up one of the new figures? This is the Epic Evolution Strike Attack Velociraptor. This is a bright orange Velociraptor. It's got some brown detailing along its back and on its legs. And this figure has a spring-loaded slashing action. I actually have a few other Velociraptors that have this same torso twisting slash action. Overall, pretty cool. Not too much different compared to the older versions of these Velociraptor figures though. Next up is the Epic Evolution Strike Attack Guaibasaurus. And part of this new Epic Evolution series, you can see what type of environment that this dinosaur is in. And this one looks like it's a swamp type environment. This is a pretty cool looking dinosaur. It's pretty small, similar in size to the Velociraptor figure. Has some cool coloring too. I like this dark green. It's a very swampy color. And this figure has an attack action as well. When you press down on its body, it has a chomping action. That's pretty cool. It's cool little spikes on the top of its head too. Next up is a Quetzalcoatlus, which is actually a flying dinosaur. And this figure is huge. You probably recognize it from the Jurassic World Dominion movie, and I'm hoping that they bring it back for the Chaos Theory show. And this figure has two buttons. One flaps its wings up and down, and the other, underneath its body, opens and closes its jaw. Over here, I've got a Parasaurolophus figure. This one is in the yellow with some purple and reflective pink coloring, which I think is pretty cool. And on this figure, you can move the tail to move the head around. Got some sound effects too. And actually, here is another Parasaurolophus figure, but this one is from the Hammond collection. So it's a little bit larger, and the detailing and the painting looks to be around the same quality. So there's not a whole lot more texturing or detailing on this figure. Here we've got a Triceratops, and I think this is the first Triceratops in this Chaos Theory predictions haul. This is the dark green version. It's got a bit of brown detailing along the top and on its frill, and it has two action buttons. One moves its head up and down for this stabbing action, and the other swings its tail back and forth. Alright, here we've got the Allosaurus figure. This is another really cool looking predator figure. This version comes in the dark brown with the dark blue coloring along the top, and it has this slide lever action for the roaring and chomping. Here is another T-Rex. This one is quite a bit smaller than the ones that we saw at the beginning though. That's because this is the Sound Surge T-Rex, so it's got a single button on its back for the roar sound effects. Up next, I've got a Baryonyx here, and I think I've actually got another Baryonyx right back here. This first one, though, looks like it has some battle damage on its side. I think this one was released for Fallen Kingdom. And this figure is colored pretty similar to the Allosaurus that we just saw, with the dark brown on the sides and then the dark blue on the top. And it has a single action button for a chomping action. Here is another Allosaurus figure with totally different coloring. It's got the dark green over most of its body with the white and red detailing, and I love these little spikes that run all the way down its back and even a little bit on its tail. Plus, it's got a slide lever action for the chomping and sound effects. And here I've got another Scorpios Rex figure. This one is a bit smaller than the one that we saw a while ago, and it doesn't have any action buttons, but it is very posable with its arms, its legs, and its tail. Check out those quills on its tail too. And you can still manually open and close the mouth. Now here's a pretty special dinosaur figure. This is an Ankylosaurus figure, but this is from the first Jurassic World movie, so it has this special edition armor plating that you can take off to reveal the normal armor plating underneath. And here is a normal Ankylosaurus figure. This one's a bit more recent though, and it comes in the clay red coloring with the tan spikes and the brown shell. And this figure has a ton of armor all over its body. Check out that tail swinging action. And here is our smallest T-Rex figure yet. This version has the little battle damage on the side and the tail that controls the head and the jaw. Up next is an herbivore called the Pachycephalosaurus with the green and orange coloring. And it's got some battle damage right here on the side that you can press down to reveal the damage underneath. I've also got some Monolophosaurus figures in here, which I really hope show up in the Chaos Theory show. This first one is one of my favorites with the dark green, the yellow, and then the bright red along its head, and you can use the tail to chomp its jaw open and closed. There's also this dark blue Monolophosaurus, which looks really cool, although it doesn't have any action buttons. And then there's this bright green version that actually has some battle damage right on the side. We saw one Dilophosaurus figure earlier, and now here are two more, much smaller versions. This first one is a bright green with the frills that are red and yellow, and there's also this dark purple version that has red, yellow, and orange on its frills. And here are four more Velociraptor figures and my final Velociraptors in this Chaos Theory prediction video. I've got this green one that has a button on its back for slashing its arms up and down. Here's another Velociraptor blue, but this one has a battle damage button on its side. There's this darker blue Velociraptor that has some orange on its back and this really cool reflective gold on its head. And this Velociraptor is actually pretty special because it is from the Hammond collection. So it is much more flexible and posable compared to the other Velociraptor figures. Here is a Spinosaurus figure. This specific figure is actually from the first Jurassic World movie, so it's pretty old, but I love the coloring on this figure. And we've got a few more winged dinosaurs in here. This first one is another Pteranodon. It's got the gray with some purple coloring and a tiny little action button for flapping its wings. And then here's another winged dinosaur called the Dimorphodon, and it has pretty much identical coloring with the gray over most of its body and then some purple detailing in certain spots. And here is our only human figure in this haul. I'm sure you've seen it in the teaser that Darius is back. Next up, I've got a cute little Ankylosaurus, and this cute little dinosaur is called Bumpy, as I'm sure you remember. Next up is a bright red Minmi dinosaur. I really love all the spikes and armor plating over this dinosaur. And I've got a few Stygimoloch figures in here. This first one is like a dark brown coloring with some darker purple coloring along its body. And best of all, you can use its tail for the headbutting action. And here is Stygimoloch Stiggy. This figure has some similar coloring. It's a brighter orange-red coloring, and then the purple detailing and striping along its body. But on this smaller figure, there is no attack button, so you can't do the headbutting action on this one. I've also got a Gallimimus figure in here. This one's pretty cool with the soft green coloring, and then it has this really cool yellow and brown striping from its back all the way up to its head, and its head is almost entirely that bright yellow color. And last of all, what I really would like to see in Chaos Theory is a Therizinosaurus. Now, we saw this dinosaur in Jurassic World Dominion, and I don't really know that we'll be seeing it in this new show, but I still think it would be really cool. Figure is ginormous. I think it might be one of the largest Predator figures that I have in my Jurassic World collection, aside from these super colossal figures. And it's also got these action buttons on its back. One for slashing the claws, and one to activate the jaws. How cool is that? Plus, there's even lights down its throat that you can kind of see on the outside too. Next up, we've got a massive Spinosaurus figure. This figure is the light tan with the dark brown and red along the spine. It is very posable, and its neck is very movable, which is really cool. Plus, there's a button on the top of its head to activate the jaw. And check out all those teeth, too. Right over here is our first prey of the bin. This is a Triceratops figure with the dark green coloring. It's got some brown detailing along the top and on the front as well. And this figure actually has two action buttons on its back. One is to lift the head up and down for striking with those awesome horns, and the second button swings the tail back and forth. I bet that would hurt if you got hit by this in real life too. Next up, another predator, the mighty Tyrannosaurus Rex with the gray-brown coloring and the dark brown on top. This figure is very posable as well. It's got a decent amount of detailing in the coloring. I like how they fade from the dark brown to the gray-brown coloring. And of course, it's got the button on the top of its head to activate the jaw. Here is another T-Rex predator. This figure is the Stomp and Escape T-Rex. This one has some very different detailing than the T-Rex that we just saw. It's got these splotches all over its back with the lighter underbelly and the darker coloring right around its eyes too. And this figure has two action buttons. The first one is for the roaring. That's really cool how it lifts its whole neck up. And the second action is actually when you twist the tails, it stomps its feet up and down with sound effects. Here's a small prey from Camp Cretaceous. This is the gray and dark purple Brachiosaurus. It's actually a baby Brachiosaurus, but it's still quite movable and posable. You can move the neck, the legs, and you can even open and close the jaw too. So even though it's pretty small, it's still a pretty cool figure. On to another Predator figure. This figure was made famous by the first Jurassic World movie. This is a Mosasaurus, and this figure is huge. And it's even larger in real life as well compared to the other dinosaurs. It's got this dark blue body with white splotches all over. You can open and close the jaw, you can move all the fins, and you can even swing the tail back and forth too. Right here, we've got, I believe this is the Rowdy Roar's Carnotaurus figure. So it's kind of funny because it looks almost like a baby Carnotaurus. It's got these huge feet and a huge head, and then this small body. Plus, it actually comes with a few actions as well. There's a button at the bottom of its tail for the chomping. It's pretty cool. You can see it swings its neck forward. And there's also a button on the top of its head for blinking and more sound effects. Right over here is another Carnotaurus Predator figure. This one has the light gray coloring on the underbelly and that same orange-red coloring on its side and the brown on top. Of course, it's got those iconic horns at the top of its head, those yellow eyes, and it has a few action features as well. You can open and close the mouth using a button on its tail, and you can twist its head in all directions to look really lifelike. Next up, I've actually got some brand new Camp Cretaceous sets that we're gonna open up right now. Let's check out this first one. This is the Ben and Ankylosaurus Bumpy set from the Dino Escape. It looks a little opened up already, but I think it still has most of the pieces. Let's check it out. See the spear over here? And let's go ahead and get Ben out of here and check him out. All right, so the Ben figure actually comes with this awesome little shield and this spear that he can hold. Plus, the figure itself has some pretty cool detailing. The figure looks dirty as if it's been in the jungle and in the wild, so pretty lifelike. And of course, we've got the cute little Ankylosaurus Bumpy with the iconic blue coloring on the top and the yellow underbelly. And even though this figure is pretty small, you can even twist the tail around and adjust that, and move the legs and twist the neck around too. So there's a lot that you can move around on this figure. I've got one more brand new Camp Cretaceous set to open up. This is the Camp Adventure set. All right, this set comes with 4 figurines. The first is this giant Stegosaurus figure, which is a prey dinosaur, and it's got the gray-blue body with the darker coloring right along the top. You can move the neck around a little bit, you can adjust all the legs, and it has an action button that swings its tail back and forth. Next in the set, we've got a Baryonyx figure. That's really cool. I have a few other Baryonyx figures like this. This one has the light green coloring along most of its body, and then it has the dark brown detailing along some of its leg and along the top as well, while its head is a lighter brown color. Plus, there is an action button on its back to activate the jaw. Next in the set, we've got Darius with the iconic yellow sweater and the blue pants. This figure even has the dinosaur tooth necklace around their neck. How cool is that? And last of all, and smallest of all, is another Ankylosaurus Bumpy figure. This figure is super small though, and actually none of the parts move. Oh, you know what? The tail moves back and forth. How cool is that? But that's the only part that moves on this teeny tiny figure. All right, back to the bin. Let's see what other predators and preys we have. We've got another giant T-Rex figure with the light brown coloring on the side and darker brown on the top. You can wiggle the tail around, you can adjust the ankles and move the legs, and of course it's got the button on the top of its head to activate the jaws. I really like with these figures how you can pose their neck in all directions and it actually stays looking in that direction. Right over here, we've got two prey figures of the same species. These are both Triceratops. You can tell because they have the 3 horns on the front of their face. This first one is a lot larger and has the clay red coloring and 1 action button on its back to move its head up and down. And the smaller Triceratops figure is a light green in color, and this figure has a really cool feature on the side of its body, which is the battle damage that you can open and close. I really like these because you can choose to hide the battle damage or open it up and show it. We've got more awesome predator figures in here. This is the Albertosaurus with the green body and the orange detailing on the side. And this figure, you can use the tail to twist the head back and forth, as well as open and close the jaw. Here is an Allosaurus figure, and I've actually got a few more Allosaurus figures in here, so let's check these out one at a time. This first one is a dark green color. It's got some red and white detailing right along its neck and its head. It's got those dark red eyes, which I think is really cool. And this figure has the slide lever action to open the jaw and get a bunch of sound effects too. This next Allosaurus figure is gray and light yellow. You can move all the limbs on this one. This one has some yellow eyes, and it has 1 action button on its back to activate the jaws. And here is the final Allosaurus of the bin. This is a brown and dark blue Allosaurus. It looks very much the same as the other figures. It's got the yellow eyes on this figure, as well as the spikes going down its neck, and the slide lever action for different roar sound effects, and a bunch of different poses too. Here's another prey figure. This is a Sauropelta. It has the bright red top and the brown underbelly and those super huge spikes coming out of its shoulders. It's got a whole row. It's actually got 2 rows on each side. And this figure is actually spring-loaded, so you can swing it back and forth to attack with those spikes. Next up, we've got another Rowdy Roars figure. This is an Indominus Rex. It looks very much the same as the Rowdy Roars Carnotaurus. It's got the big feet, the giant head, and the small body, and it actually has some actions as well. You can use the tail to open the jaw, and then you can press on the tongue to snap it shut. And there is a button on its nose as well to activate more sound effects. I've got some smaller prey in here as well. Check out these Gallimimus figures. They look pretty identical, but this one is a darker orange coloring with brown stripes, and this one is much lighter. And they both have the same movements. You can move all the limbs, you can twist the tail, and you can move the necks up and down as well. Next up, I believe, is the Ceratosaurus figure. This figure is gray, it's got some dark brown, and then the bright red along its back, which is a really cool color scheme, I think. It's got the action button on its back to activate the jaw as well. Here is our first winged predator of the bin. This is a Pteranodon, and this one actually has some battle damage on its wings. You can see that there's a hole in its wing right there. Plus, you can actually open up more battle damage right on its back. Looks like I've got a few more Baryonyx figures in here as well. This first one is another light green with the brown detailing along the top. It's got the action button on its back for chomping. And I've also got this battle damage Baryonyx as well. This one is a darker red color with some blue detailing on the top. It's got a lighter color along the top of its head, and you can see the battle damage on its neck, on its leg, and it looks like that's about it. But it also has an action button to activate the jaw as well. Next up is another prey from Camp Cretaceous. This is the Stegosaurus with the brown, light tan, and green coloring. It's very much similar to the Stegosaurus that we saw earlier, including an action button to swing its tail back and forth, but this one actually has another feature that when you press down here, it moves its neck up and down. The next predator is a Metriacanthosaurus in the bright red coloring with the brown detailing and the light orange along its head and its nose as well. This figure also has the action button on its back to activate the jaw. Right over here, we've got a Pachycephalosaurus figurine. This is light tan along the sides, it's a bit brighter along its belly, and it has the dark gray-blue detailing along its top and on its legs too. Plus, this figure has an action button that when you move the tail, it does the headbutting action. So this figure is actually spring-loaded. All right, check it out. We've got a few raptor figures in here. Velociraptors, to be exact. This first one is the green Velociraptor. It is in a sneaking pose. It's crawling along the ground, looking for some prey. And I've also got this blue Velociraptor with some awesome detailing and even the gold on the top of its head. That's a really cool feature. I think this is my only Velociraptor with reflective gold on its head. Next up, I've got a few Monolophosaurus figures in here, all with different coloring. This first one is super bright green. It's got the darker green along the top and an action button. When you push down on the tail, it opens and closes its jaw. I've also got these other Monolophosaurus. This one is like a light red color with almost purple coloring along its back, and it also has the action button to open and close its jaw. And this Monolophosaurus is dark green with some bright yellow and red coloring along the top, and it also has the action button to open and close its jaw using the tail. Here we've got a few more prey figures from Camp Cretaceous. This first one is a Stygimoloch figure and is really small, but it's still quite posable. You can move the head in all directions, can twist the tail and move the limbs. And this figure, I believe, is the Protoceratops. It's got the light purple body with some brighter yellow coloring along the top and on the front as well. And it's got some bright yellow eyes too. Looks like we've got two more winged predators in here. These both, I believe, are Dimorphodons. This first one is a lot brighter. It's got like some fire detailing on the underside of its wings, and the rest of its body is a darker red. And this figure has some purplish coloring along the underside of its wings, while the rest of its body is a gray color. Just a few small figures left. We've got another Gallimimus figure, this one with different coloring. It actually has yellow and brown striping along its back, all the way up to its head. I've also got, I think this is a Troodon figure. It's kind of funny because it looks like it's got a mohawk, but those are actually just the spines going all the way down its back. It's got some cool coloring as well. And then, of course, I've got a Dilophosaurus figure with the light coloring along its body and the red along its frills. Plus, this figure has an action that when you move the tail, its frills activate. And last of all, I've got some of the Camp Cretaceous human character figurines. We've even got Darius again, we've got Brooklyn, and all these figures, each with their own unique looks. Start with the biggest one at the bottom here. This is the super colossal Indominus Rex. Let's open it up. This thing is already huge. Let's get those legs and tail on. Here is the fully assembled super colossal Indominus Rex. So first off, it has the typical coloring that the smaller Indominus Rexes have, but when you open up the mouth, you can see that there's a tunnel that goes all the way down into the stomach compartment right here. So you can actually feed this Indominus Rex miniature dinosaurs and then empty it out through the stomach right here. That is super cool. Plus, even though this thing is huge, it still is fully adjustable. Of course, you can adjust the jaw. You can also twist the neck. You can adjust the arms up and down. You can move the legs and ankles. And of course, you can move the tail. All in all, I'd say this dinosaur is probably around 2 feet tall and maybe 3 feet long. We've still got 2 brand new dinosaurs to open up. Let's start with the Albertosaurus. All right, so this is a medium-sized dinosaur. As you can see, it is a mostly green dinosaur, but it has those red striping on its side from the head all the way to its stomach on both sides. And there's an action button on the tail. If you press the button, it chomps the jaw. Plus, if you twist the tail, it moves its head back and forth like that. I have a few other Albertosauruses. Some of them even have battle damage on the side. This one does not, so this is just the normal primal attack Albertosaurus. Next up, we've got a feeding frenzy Indominus Rex. Let's open it up. All right, here is the feeding frenzy Indominus Rex. Let's check it out. So it has the same coloring as the huge one that we just saw, and it has this huge face and jaw too. This dinosaur comes with tons of sound effects, and it comes with this piece of meat. Let's see what happens when you feed it. So it's making some growling noises, and when it hits the trigger in there, its eyes start glowing too. That is pretty cool. And I love how big the teeth are on this dinosaur as well. Just look at that. Those are so huge. Right up top here, we've got another Indominus Rex. This one is still huge, not quite as huge as the super colossal one that we just opened up. And as you can see, it's colored kind of the same. It has some dark gray on the top and a lighter gray on the sides. It's got those orange eyes. And this dinosaur has 2 action buttons on it. First, you've got the tail button that activates the jaw. And then you've got a button on its back that activates the slashing action. All in all, this is a really cool Indominus Rex figure. Up next, we've got a giant Spinosaurus with dark green coloring on the sides. And on its spine, there's red, white, and a little bit of green at the bottom. Plus, this Spinosaurus is fully adjustable with the neck, the arms, the legs, and the tail. And of course, you can press the button on the top of its head to open its jaw. This is a super awesome figure and huge. Right up here, we've got a Tyrannosaurus Rex, but I believe that this one was custom colored. So you won't really see coloring like this on other T-Rexes that you can get. But look how cool it is. It's bright red, black on the top, and then the orange on the sides. It almost looks like the T-Rex is on fire. That is so awesome. Back here, we've got another T-Rex. This one is normal color. It's got brown on the sides, a darker brown on the top, and the tan belly. Plus, this dinosaur has a few action buttons as well. You can move the tail, and it moves its head around, which I really like. It's super realistic. And there's even a button on the tail that you can press to open its jaw. Back here, we've got another T-Rex, but this one is battle damage. Look at that right on the side. And pressing the button, you can turn it on and off. That is super awesome. And this T-Rex is fully adjustable with the legs, tail, neck, and the jaw as well. Back here, we've actually got another battle damage T-Rex, but this one is a bit different than the other one. Instead of having the thing on its side right here, you can see that there's a bunch of slashes all over its body, on the tail, on its legs, on its belly, and even on its face. And just like the other T-Rexes, this is fully adjustable. You can move the tail, the legs, the arms, the neck, and this one has a button at the top to make it roar. Here is another giant Spinosaurus with different coloring than the last one we saw. This one is mostly brown with the red detailing. You can see along its face it's got that bright red coloring as well as along its spine. And even on the top you can see that there's a lighter tan and then a dark brown color right along the top. That is super cool. Fully adjustable, and it has the button on the head that you can use to open its jaw. Up next, we've got the mighty Carcharodontosaurus. This dinosaur is a mostly tan yellow coloring, but you can see that there's orange and brown striping all the way up to its head. And this dinosaur has an action button as well. With the button on its back, you can do the chomping action. Here is the Tarbosaurus. This dinosaur has totally different coloring. It is a dark gray color with black stripes all along its body. It's got those spikes all along its spine, and right on its chin and on its neck is a bright red color. This dinosaur is fully adjustable with its arms, legs, tail. The tail actually controls the head, and the button on the tail controls the jaw as well. Here's another fierce predator. This is an Allosaurus. It's a dark green color with red and white speckles on its neck and face. And it is fully adjustable, and it's got this slide action. That is super awesome. Right over here, we've got the great Metriocanthosaurus. I think that's how you pronounce it. This is a yellow-green color on the sides. It's got the green coloring on top with the action button that controls its jaw. And it is fully adjustable in the legs and arms as well. Right over here, we've actually got a few Baryonyxes with totally different coloring. This first one, gray coloring with blue and a bright blue on the top, and it has a slide action for its roars. This second Baryonyx is brown colored, and it has blue detailing on the top and a bright orange top of the head. And the action button on this dinosaur activates the jaw. All right, here's another massive predator. This is a Carnotaurus. This dinosaur can be controlled by its tail. When you move its tail, it moves its head around. There's also a button on the tail to activate the jaw. And I love the coloring on this. This is like a dark brown red color with speckles of like a gray color as well. So it's quite detailed and fully adjustable as usual too. Right over here, we've got a super long-nosed dinosaur. This is the Sarcophagus. This is a clay red color on the top. Look at all those spikes along the top of its body. And along the bottom is a dark green color. But I love the detail of all those spikes along its back. That really gives it a strong texture. That's really cool. And the tail, of course, controls the head, so you can move the head around. Right back here, we've got a winged dinosaur. I'm sure you recognize this from the new Jurassic World Dominion movie. This is the Quetzalcoatlus, and it has two action buttons. The first on the top flaps its wings, and there's actually one on the bottom that controls the mouth. Oh, here's a dinosaur you don't see too much of. This is a Ceratosaurus. This dinosaur is gray with splotches of dark brown, and of course the red back and the super bright red face with the white horn on the very top. This dinosaur has an action button on its back that controls its jaw, and the rest of its body is fully adjustable. Right back here is another Sarcophagus, but this one has totally different coloring. It's got the blue bottom, the dark purple top, same spines though, and then it's got orange and red splotches all over its back. That is super cool. Here is another unusual predator. This is the Majungasaurus. This dinosaur is pretty brightly colored. Although it's mostly green in the back, it has those bright yellow coloring right along its back and that bright blue color right on its neck and on its head. And this figure has quite a lot of sound effects, as you can hear. The tail also moves the head around so you can make it look super realistic. All right, this is another super noisy dinosaur. This is the Dilophosaurus. This figure is dark blue around most of its body, and it's got the orange head and neck as well. I love that accent. And with this tail, you can adjust the head and wiggle it around. How cool is that? All right, here is a full-sized Allosaurus. I love the coloring on this dinosaur. It's got the tan yellow bottom and the bright blue top. That is so cool. I think we've actually got two Allosauruses here, both with different coloring. But let's check this one out first. This one has two action buttons on the top. The first controls its jaw, and the second button controls its arms. How cool is that? The legs are fully adjustable, and the tail you can twist as well. The second Allosaurus is mostly gray with the yellow splotches all along the top of its body. And this has one action button on its back where you press it and it controls the jaw. Right over here, we've got a brightly colored Suchomimus. This is a bright yellow with brown along its spine, and this dinosaur has a few action buttons. The first controls its neck and jaw, and the second controls its tail. Plus, the rest of the figure is fully adjustable as well. Oh, here's actually a second Suchomimus with totally different coloring. This one is mostly blue along the entire body, but it's got the yellow detailing along its spine as well as those splotches. And this Suchomimus has one action on its back. When you press it down, it does a chomping action. All right, here's another Baryonyx with different coloring. This Baryonyx is light brown on the sides and the belly, and on the top has a dark blue coloring all along its back to the tail and to the head. But the coolest part of the coloring is this super reflective blue coloring right on its head. This Baryonyx is fully adjustable and it has one action button for its jaw. Here is another Dilophosaurus. This one is differently colored than the last one that we saw. It's mostly yellow with the brown on the top and of course the bright orange crown on its head. This dinosaur is fully adjustable. You can move the tail to adjust the head. And of course, as you can hear, it comes with tons of sound effects. Here is another Metriacanthosaurus. But once again, different coloring than the last one we saw. This one is a bright red color with brown detailing all along its back. And on the head, you can see that it's got that bright orange and yellow coloring. There is one action button on this dinosaur, and that controls the jaw. Up next, we've got another Carcharodontosaurus. Check out the coloring on this one. This is a bright blue coloring, and it's got the brown and orange specks on its back and neck, and right around its eye as well. This dinosaur is fully adjustable with legs, arms, and tail, and there's one action button on its back that when you press, it does a chomping action. All right, we've got another Baryonyx right here. This one is bright green with brown on the top. And as usual, the arms and legs are fully adjustable, and there is one action button on the top that controls its jaw. All right, check this one out. I remember this from the new Jurassic World Dominion movie. This is a Dimetrodon. And look at that huge spine on its back. It's red with yellow speckles all over it. And with this dinosaur figure, when you wiggle the tail back and forth, it opens and closes its jaw. All right, I see a ton of Velociraptors in here. Let's pull a few out. This Velociraptor is a green color with a darker green along the top and is fully adjustable. Even with the mouth, you can open and close. The second Velociraptor is different coloring. This is a blue along most of its body. It's got the tan bottom, but the coolest part of all, it's got the yellow along the top and a shining gold along its head. It's actually reflective, which is super cool. And this Velociraptor is mostly tan. You can see it along the bottom and the sides with the brown top. But most importantly, this Velociraptor has a slashing action. It is spring-loaded, so you can actually twist its torso back and forth, and it'll do this slashing action. All right over here, we've got a baby T-Rex with a jaw-chomping action, brightly green colored, and fully adjustable. And this is a Dilophosaurus. It is mostly gray colored with darker gray along the top. But this Dilophosaurus actually has an action. When you move the tail, it activates its frills. That's so cool. We've still got more Velociraptors in here. Let's check them out. Here are 4 Velociraptors. The first is an orangish Velociraptor, and it has the slashing action. The next Velociraptor is a bright red color with green striping on the top. Look at how bright this Velociraptor is, and it is fully adjustable. The next Velociraptor is a classic one. This is blue, and it comes with battle damage on the side as well. And this Velociraptor is more of a yellow coloring with brown on the top. This one also comes with battle damage on the side as well. right, just a few dinosaurs left. This is a Herrerasaurus. It is all green and it has different shades of green all along its body. And it is fully adjustable with the mouth, the neck, the arms, and the legs. Over here, we've got a weird-looking dinosaur. This is the Shringosaurus. Look at those huge horns on its head, and the brown coloring on the top, and the yellow on the sides. This is quite the odd-looking dinosaur. At least I think so. And our last two dinosaurs of this collection. First, we've got the Great Dimorphodon. This is mostly a gray color with a dark red along the bottom of its wings, but it's still fully adjustable with its legs, its mouth, its neck, and its wings. And this Velociraptor is a dark gray color with yellow detailing right along the top of it, and is fully adjustable as well. Here's the Tyrannosaurus Rex with battle damage. That is pretty cool that it flips open and close so easily. The rest of this T-Rex has a brown body with black detailing on the top, and the neck and head is fully posable too. Next up, we've got the Camp Cretaceous Mosasaurus. Let's open it up and check it out. All right, so here is the fully assembled giant Mosasaurus. It's got an opening jaw, and all the tails are adjustable. Top of its body is a dark blue-purple color, and its underbelly is a gray color. Check out those blue eyes too. Next up, we've got the giant Giganotosaurus. Check out the spikes on this dinosaur right at the top. That is a massive spine. This dinosaur has some huge teeth, and like many of the super colossal figures, you can actually feed it small dinosaurs and then empty it out in the stomach compartment. Over here on the other side, we've got another super colossal dinosaur. This is the T-Rex. This has a darker body than most of my T-Rex figures. It still has the white underbelly, and just like the Giganotosaurus, you can open it up, feed it miniature dinosaurs all the way down, and open it up in the stomach compartment. Next up, we've got a giant Brachiosaurus. And it's pretty detailed, even though it's a huge dinosaur figure. You can adjust all the legs, move the neck up and down. So it's a pretty cool figure, and it's ginormous. Probably stands about 3 feet tall. Next up, another huge dinosaur is the Apatosaurus. Check out this green body with the lighter green striping on the top. You can open and close the mouth and rotate the head too. Next up, we've got a huge T-Rex that's over a foot long from tail to the head. This T-Rex has a dark brown body, a yellow underbelly, and gray detailing all over the top of its body, plus an action button for roaring. Right over here, we've got another T-Rex with camouflage custom coloring. This dinosaur looks really cool. I love the coloring on this. And with the tail, you can control the face and the roaring too. Right over here, we've got an Indominus Rex with battle damage. Let's check that out. That is really cool. Again, I really like how you can flip that on and off super easily. The rest of this dinosaur is all gray, super textured and bumpy all over its body, and it has an action button to operate the jaw. Next up, we've got an evil-looking Scorpios Rex. It's got the quills on its tail, spring-loaded so you can flick the tail back and forth. It's got those huge claws on its feet too. This is one mean-looking dinosaur. Right up top here, we've got another Mosasaurus. So we've got twin Mosasauruses in my collection now. You can see that it's speckled white all along its back with the dark blue and the gray underbelly as well. and the tail moves too. Here is a Tyrannosaurus Rex with a darker body, just like the super colossal one that we saw earlier. The head on this T-Rex is ginormous too, a lot bigger than the other T-Rexes that I have. Over here we've got a custom colored Indominus Rex. This one's got blue, it's got purple, it's got orange, and it's got black. And it's got some green eyes too. And just like many of the other Indominus Rex figures, this has a slashing action and a roar button too. We got a ton of T-Rexes in here. Check out this gray-brown one that is fully adjustable and fully posable. We've also got some more battle damage T-Rexes. All those teeth, fully posable and fully adjustable legs, arms, and tail. Up front here, we've got another T-Rex, but with different coloring. This is like a brown-orange color and a darker brown on top. Once again, this T-Rex is also fully adjustable, can pose the neck, and it's got a button at the top of its head to control the jaw. Here is another orange-brown Tyrannosaurus Rex, but as you probably already noticed, this one has battle damage all over it, and it doesn't have the little button to click it back and forth. It's just painted on its body. Here is a normal colored Indominus Rex without the battle damage. This Indominus Rex has a gray body. It's a little bit darker on the top. It's got those spikes right around the head, and then it's got darker coloring right around its eyes too. Here is another Mosasaurus. This one has different coloring than the other ones that we've seen in this collection so far. It's a lighter blue coloring on the sides. Still got the dark gray top. No white speckles on this one though. And just like the other Mosasauruses, it has a movable jaw, can adjust the fins, but on this one, the tail actually doesn't move at all. Next up, another T-Rex. Light brown coloring on the side, darker brown on the top, and a yellow underbelly. And this T-Rex has the tail that also controls the head. Here is our first Spinosaurus of this collection. This Spinosaurus is light tan on the side, the movable tail, legs, ankles, arms, neck, and the jaw as well. Over on this side, we've got a big old Carnotaurus. It's got a gray underbelly and clay red sides and a darker brown top. Look at all those bumps and spikes along its body. And the two horns up top too. Here we've got a T-Rex, but this one is crazy custom colored. Look at the bright red on this body. You wouldn't see this coloring out in the wild, but it sure makes for an awesome collectible. Here is a big old Stegosaurus with gray-blue coloring on the sides and a darker gray along the top with a pink underbelly. And this dinosaur, like all the others, is super textured. You can see it's got super bumpy skin everywhere. Here is an Allosaurus with a dark green body and gray and red detailing right along its neck. See that set of teeth too, and those red eyes. That's really cool. Depending on how much you slide this open, it'll either growl or it'll roar full on. This is another Allosaurus, but with totally different features. This has a tan body with blue on the top and a brighter blue right along the head. And it's got two action buttons. That one controls the jaw and the other controls the arms. Look at that blue tongue too. How unusual. Right in the back here, we've got a tan dinosaur. This is a Carcharodontosaurus. It's got the brown and yellow detailing with the bumps right along its spine all the way to its tail. This Carcharodontosaurus also has quite a set of teeth too. Here is a dark red dinosaur with a white underbelly. This is a Carnotaurus, and this dinosaur has a chomping action. Check out those two iconic horns right at the top of the head too. This big old dinosaur is a Suchomimus. It's got a blue body with a darker blue legs and a yellow top. Look at that goes all the way down the spine to the tail. Plus, this Suchomimus has a chomping action. Look at those huge rows of teeth too, and that red tongue. Up next, we've got a big old Stegosaurus again, but with different coloring. This is a dark green along the sides. It's got tan and brown that leads to the underbelly. And this Stegosaurus has a swinging action for its tail. Let's check that out. That's pretty cool. This is a little bit smaller, but it's still a pretty big dinosaur. It's a Ceratosaurus with dark green coloring, and it's got the slide action for different sound effects. That is really cool. Oh, you know what? Back here is another Ceratosaurus. This one though is gray with brown spots and red right on the top and a super bright red face. Let's see what this dinosaur can do. This big old super bright dinosaur is a Metriacanthosaurus. It's even got some bright yellow orange right on the top of its head. This gray dinosaur is an Allosaurus. It's got that yellow detailing from the tail all the way to the top of the head. Look at those interesting things right above its eyes. It's kind of like eyebrows in a way. And our last dinosaur is the good old Albertosaurus with battle damage. You can see it's got the slash on its leg, and it's also got a squishy stomach, ribs that you can pull down, and then skin that covers it all. This is a collection of Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous figures for Season 5, which was sadly the last season, but we still got tons of cool figures from it, like this Spinosaurus figure. It's got a button at the top of its head that you can use to open and close its mouth. And it's got huge front arms and even bigger back legs. Camp Cretaceous also gave us this epic roaring T-Rex, which is one of my favorite. It's got the classic coloring, and you can use the tail to open and close the jaws as well as move the neck around. They also released the extreme battle damage T-Rex for Camp Cretaceous. This one has the brown coloring with some gray on the top and the battle damage that you can turn on and off from both sides. There's also this huge Scorpios Rex figure that I'm sure you recognize from Camp Cretaceous. And this is actually a pretty sizable dinosaur figure, and it's got two action buttons on its back. One for roaring, and check out those teeth, how they fit in all together even when its mouth closes. I think that's a really cool feature. And there's also another button for slashing. This Stegosaurus came as part of a camp adventure set, so there's a few other pieces in it, but this was the biggest one in it. It's got the gray-blue coloring, the pink body, and it's got an action button. When you press down here, it swings its tail back and forth with those huge spikes on the end. Next up, we've got the Primal Attack Carnotaurus Toro with the darker brown coloring. It's got a little bit of that battle damage on its face, and you can use the tail to move the head around and open and close the jaws. Over here, we've got the Ouranosaurus figure. It's got the green body with some brighter details along its face, as well as on its spine too. It's a pretty unusual looking dinosaur, and it's got a slide lever action to move the head up and down and give sound effects too. Next up for Camp Cretaceous Season 5 is the Soundstrike Cryolophosaurus figure. I believe there's two versions of the Cryolophosaurus. This one is the dark blue. It has some white and red detailing along its body, and it has some pretty unique sound effects too. That's pretty cool. It almost sounds like a snake or something like that. This next figure is also from the Soundstrike series. This is the Parasaurolophus. It's got the yellow body and some really cool reflective pink coloring along its back and its legs too. And you can use its tail, just like many of the other figures, to control its face. Next up, also from the Soundstrike series of Camp Cretaceous, is this Spinosaurus figure. It's got a mostly gray body and some yellow and tan detailing all along its top and especially on the front too. And actually, here's another Spinosaurus figure, but this one is the green colored. It's also got some tan and orange brown coloring along the top as well. And you can use the tail to control the head. And check out the size of that front horn too. I think that's a lot larger than a Triceratops horn. Next up from Camp Cretaceous is this blue, orange, and purple Sarcosuchus dinosaur. This is a very short dinosaur. It's really close to the ground, but it's quite a bit longer than a lot of other dinosaurs as well. And it's got this really long and narrow snout with tons of teeth of different sizes in it. And with this figure, you can use the tail to open and close the mouth, as well as twist its head back and forth and up and down. Over here, we've got Ankylosaurus Bumpy. This is a pretty brightly colored dinosaur. It's got tons of spikes right along the sides and a bunch of armor on the top, and the slide lever action to swing the tail back and forth with sound effects. I've also got a smaller Ankylosaurus Bumpy figure right here. This is kind of like the baby version. It looks a lot younger. It's got basically identical coloring, although you'll notice that this figure does not have the huge spikes coming out of its sides right there. Here is the Soundstrike Pteranodon figure. It is over 1 foot from wingtip to wingtip. It's a orange-brown color. It's got some darker detailing along its wings and some brighter orange right on the top of its face and on its horn as well. And it comes with 2 action buttons. The first flaps its wings, and it's got the sound effects. And the second button activates its mouth, and you can open and close it. Check out all those tiny, tiny little teeth. Here's also a smaller Pteranodon figure. It's got some brighter detailing along its wings and some tan along its face. You can open and close its mouth manually as well, and a single button on its back to flap its wings. Here is a Stygimoloch figure in the orange-brown coloring. It's got some darker detailing with little splotches along its back, and the very top of its head is a whitish color. And of course, it's got those huge spikes right behind its head as well. Here's a Monolophosaurus figure with the dark green coloring along most of its body. It's got some yellow coloring right along its back, and then the bright red along its face. Check out those tiny green eyes too. This aquatic dinosaur is a Plesiosaurus. It's dark blue on top and gray on the bottom, and there's 1 action button on its back to make its flippers move. Here is another winged dinosaur. This is a Dimorphodon. It's got some super bright coloring along the bottom of its wings, and it's got quite a large face and mouth too. This next figure is Velociraptor Charlie with the camo green coloring. It's got some darker green striping along the top. It's pretty detailed, and it's got that single action button on its back to move its claws back and forth. This next figure is the Coelurus dinosaur. It's a lot smaller and has a brighter body and some darker blue detailing along the top of its head. And finally, this is the Proceratosaurus figure. It's got a dark blue body with some brown and orange right along the top of its head. giant figure from right in the center of the bin is the Jurassic World Dominion Giganotosaurus. This is a pretty large figure. It's got the soft green body with the black detailing all over the top. It's got that huge spine on its back as well. And this figure has some features as well. It has a chomping action, and it has a torso spinning action. This big figure is the Camp Cretaceous Extreme Damage T-Rex. This figure has posable arms, legs, tail, and a neck that you can move in all directions, and you can open its mouth for posing, and most importantly, it's got the extreme battle damage on the side that you can turn on and off. This next figure is the Jurassic World Dominion Therizinosaurus. This is a pretty big figure as well. It's got a dark body with the red stripe all the way to the top of its head, and it's got a few action buttons. You can use the tail to control the neck, and there's a button for chomping as well. I've also got some brand new figures from both Camp Cretaceous and Jurassic World Dominion. So let's open these up next. This is the Camp Cretaceous Soundstrike Spinosaurus. It's got the all gray body. So let's open it up and check it out. You can see it's got bumps and texturing all over its body, and it's not all the same everywhere. You can even see a little bit of its ribs right there too. Interestingly, it's got all black eyes, and it's got some yellow and orange detailing on the top of its head right there. And you can use the tail to control the head. This is the Jurassic World Dominion Massive Action Siamosaurus, or at least I think that's how you say it. Let's open it up. This is a pretty unique looking dinosaur. It looks like it walks on all fours. It has a huge red spine on its back. It's got some interesting coloring along its body. It's mostly black, but then it has these white splotches all over. And this figure has a couple actions too. First, you can use the tail to swing the head up and down and all around. And there's a button on its tail as well to control the chomping. Next up is the Jurassic World Dominion Roar Strikers Ragosaurus. This is pretty cool. I actually have one Ragosaurus that we'll see later on in this bin, but this one has entirely different coloring. It is a dark blue color. It's got some lighter coloring along the bottom of its neck and its chin. It's got the iconic spines along the top of its neck. And of course, it has the action for when you press down on its body. It's got some chomping action. This is the Camp Cretaceous Dino Escape 3-pack. It comes with a Tyrannosaurus Rex, Baryonyx, and Velociraptor Blue. So let's open it up and check it out. First up, we've got the giant T-Rex figure. This is the light gray brown T-Rex. It's got the darker brown along the top, and it's got the button on the top of its head for the chomping and roaring. Here we've got the Darius figure with the yellow jacket and blue pants, and it doesn't come with any accessories for him, but he does have a necklace. And finally, in the 3-pack is the iconic Velociraptor Blue figure. This is pretty similar to some other figures that I already have. This is the Jurassic World Dominion Allosaurus. It's got this super long neck with the clay red coloring and the brown top with tons of spikes all over its body. It's also got a few action buttons as well. Here is the Camp Cretaceous Carnotaurus figure. This figure is almost as big as many of the T-Rex figures that you'll see. It's got the dark brown red coloring all over its body and some darker detailing along the top. It's got the iconic battle damage right on its nose. It's got the horns on its head as well, and it has some action features as well. Over here is another Spinosaurus figure from Camp Cretaceous. But as you can see, this one has totally different coloring. It is a soft green color over most of its body, and it's got some tan detailing along the top of its back and some unique coloring right on the top as well. And this figure has yellow eyes instead of those black eyes. And with this figure as well, you can use the tail to control the head. This is one of my favorite Camp Cretaceous figures. This is the T-Rex from Camp Cretaceous. And it's my favorite because it's one of the largest T-Rexes that I have. It has some awesome coloring, and it has the tail and button on the tail that you can use to control the neck and the jaw. And I just love how realistic you can make this figure look just by moving the tail around. We've got another Camp Cretaceous figure here. This is the Spinosaurus. It's got the light tan coloring along most of its body. It's got some brighter coloring along the bottom of its neck, but most importantly, it's got the red along the spine and at the top of its head too. Plus, it's got those dark orange eyes, which is a pretty cool feature. And this figure is pretty adjustable as well. You can move the arms, the legs, the tail, you can move the neck around, and of course, there's a button at the top of its head for chomping. And check out all those teeth too. I really like how narrow the Spinosaurus's mouth is. We've got another super large T-Rex figure in here. This is from Jurassic World Dominion. It has much darker coloring with the black on top and the dark brown on bottom with a lighter underbelly. This T-Rex has a much bigger jaw and neck than what you'll see in many of the other Camp Cretaceous T-Rexes, and it comes with some actions as well. You can use the tail to swing the torso back and forth, and it has a button to activate the jaw. Look at that, it's even got some room in its mouth that you could probably fit a few miniature dinosaurs in there. Here we've got a few Baryonyx figures from Camp Cretaceous. They're both green and brown in color, but they're not quite the same. This one is a darker green, has 2 tones of brown along the top. It's got the action button on its back to activate the jaw. This one is a much lighter green. It's almost like a mustard yellow and green color, and it has brown on the top and a darker green along the back. And this figure has a slide lever action to activate the jaw and sound effects. This figure is the Yangchuanosaurus from Jurassic World Dominion. It's got a soft green body with the yellow underbelly and the brown detailing along the top, and it's got the orange crown on the top of its head. This figure is pretty adjustable. You can move the arms and the legs. You can use the legs to actually position the neck up and down. And you can use the tail to swing the torso back and forth, and a button on its tail to use the jaw. This is a Camp Cretaceous Triceratops. It's got the brown coloring along most of its body, 2 tones of blue along the top and along the front as well. It's got some sound effects, and just like the Spinoceratops, when you move the tail, you can control the head. Next up, we've got the Camp Cretaceous Parasaurolophus figure with yellow coloring along most of its body. It's got some dark purple and then some bright reflective like purple pink coloring along its leg and its back. And it's got the iconic horn at the top of its head too. And with this figure, you can use the tail to control the head just like many of the other Camp Cretaceous figures. This is the Jurassic World Dominion Sound Surge T-Rex. This T-Rex is a lot smaller compared to many of the other T-Rex figures that I have. It's got the same type of coloring, brown along most of its body, with gray detailing along its neck. But the most important part about this figure is the sound effects it comes with. And as the final feature, you can open and close the mouth manually. You'll see that the teeth or the tongue is not painted though. This Camp Cretaceous figure, I believe, is the Extreme Chompin' Indominus Rex. It's a smaller looking figure with a huge head and huge eyes, and it comes with a few features. There's a button at the top of its head to activate some sound effects, and when it's dark you can see its eyes glow. And you can use the tail to open the jaw, and when you press on the tongue, it'll close it. Over here, we've got the Camp Cretaceous Dilophosaurus. This Dilophosaurus has the dark blue coloring with the white and red detailing along its body. I do have a yellow Dilophosaurus as well, but I think this was the only one from the Camp Cretaceous toy line. And as you can hear, it's got some sound effects, and you can use the tail to control the head. Next up is the Jurassic World Dominion Rajasaurus. This figure has brown coloring. We saw the one earlier that had the dark blue coloring. It's got the same spine and the horn, but yeah, this one is a light brown color with some dark blue detailing along the top of its back and its neck. And of course, it still has the same action for when you press down on its body, it chomps. Next up, we've got the Jurassic World Dominion Sound Surge Giganotosaurus. This is a smaller Giganotosaurus figure, but it still has the iconic spine and the same coloring as many of the other figures. You can open and close the mouth manually, and the most important part is that it's got some sound effects built in. Next, we've got the Camp Cretaceous Ceratosaurus. This dinosaur figure has the iconic white horn at the top of its nose. It's got the red detailing and the brown detailing along its back and neck, and the rest of its body is a light gray color. And it's got one action button on its back to activate the jaw. This Jurassic World Dominion figure is the Ankylosaurus. It's got the clay red body with the brown top and lighter spikes, and it's got an action that when you press down on its body, it swings the tail back and forth with sound effects. Next up, we've got a figure that I bought pretty recently. This is the Jurassic World Dominion Megaraptor. It's got some pretty cool coloring. The entire back of its body is a bright red color, and the front is this darker gray-blue color. It's got some white detailing along its nose. And just like the Rajasaurus figures, this has an action that when you press down on its body, it chomps. I believe this one is the Jurassic World Dominion Iguanodon. It's got a light tan body with some detailing along the top, and when you press down on this body, it moves its head up and down. Right over here, we've got some smaller Camp Cretaceous figures. First, we've got this bright red and green Velociraptor with spring-loaded legs, so you can actually launch them into the air. We've also got two different colored Stygimolochs. This first one is dark brown with some purple detailing along the top. This one is a lighter blue color, and it's got some purple detailing around its face and its neck. And of course, both of them have the head ramming action when you press down on their tail. And of course, we've got another Camp Cretaceous Velociraptor blue figure. I've got a couple Jurassic World Dominion figures with extreme battle damage. This first one is the Dimetrodon with the battle damage on its side that you can turn on and off by pressing this button. And there's also this yellow and dark blue Velociraptor with the battle damage that you can turn on and off with this button up top. We've got some more smaller figures in here. This first one is the Camp Cretaceous Monolophosaurus. It has a dark green body. It's got some yellow detailing along the top and some red right at the top of its head. This next Camp Cretaceous figure is the Proceratosaurus figure. It has a dark blue body with some orange and brown detailing along the top of its head. And this figure is from Jurassic World Dominion. This is the Moros Intrepidus. It has a soft green body and orange from the tail down this line on its side, as well as around its eyes too. And here are our final three figures in this bin, all from Jurassic World Dominion. First, we've got a tan Atrociraptor in the crawling pose. This is the Miragaia figure with the huge spikes on its shoulders. And inside this container, what could it be? Alright, it is another Atrociraptor figure. This is the white and brown Atrociraptor. And despite how small this figure is, it is pretty adjustable. And you can even twist the neck around too.
Want to see more dino videos? Click the subscribe button now.